everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Belgian Football Podcast. My name is Ben Jackson, and I'll be your host for this episode. As always, I'm joined by Scott and Joris. Guys, how are you doing this evening?
Well, hello there, everybody. Time for some Matchday 4 action.
So, between an own birthday, a wedding I went to this weekend, and then the groom's birthday party starting at 12 o'clock at that wedding, well, it was difficult to pick a highlight. Oh, wait, yes, Genk won 3-4. So, yeah, that's done. Sorry, Bosmans, to call him out as well.
Hopefully he's not listening. But congratulations to your friend as well, from all of us here.
Hopefully he is.
He should be, if he's a good enough friend. No, but apart from all that excitement, there was some action on the pitch as well. I can't believe we're in round 4 already. I think I was looking at, I think it's the Polish league or one of those leagues where they've already up to like 7 or 8 games. And I was like, flipping heck. And I'm like, no, yeah, we're not far behind on 4. Friday night, we kicked off with Union beating Charleroi 1-0. The game Joris just mentioned started off Saturday, Beerschot 3, Genk 4. It was a great game. St. Truiden drew 3-3 with Dender. Mechelen lost 3-1 at home to Anderlecht. Club Brugge got their first win of the season over Antwerp. Leuven and Cercle Brugge drew 1-1. Kortrijk beat Standard Liège 1-0. And Ghent beat, in form, but now maybe not in form, Westerlo by 4-1. I guess the main kind of takeaway I had from the Union game that it was quite smoky. It was just quite hazy during the game. And apart from that, it felt, from what I've seen, like it was just a lot of Union pressure and a lot of Union opportunities. And they had the better of the chances. It just took them forever to actually get the goal. A bit of lapse in concentration, I guess you could say, from the Charleroi defenders to give away that penalty. Fuseni puts it away quite nicely. He looked pretty lively throughout the game. To be fair to him, Kone was quite busy. Sometimes he looked good, sometimes he didn't look good. A couple of the crosses that he came for didn't look quite so good. But in the end, he was probably quite disappointed for them to concede so late on in the game. I don't know, guys, I expected more goals in a game between these two. Union, just historically, we expect them to score quite a few goals. And then Charleroi this year, especially being a little bit more attacking, a little bit more scoring. But then I guess this is now 2 1-0 wins for them in a row. So maybe it's their new kind of way of winning is just 1-0 with 2 1-0 results in a row, not 2 1-0 wins in a row. This time they get done by the late goal by Fuseni. But yeah, Union, I guess, will just be happy to get the win. But it kind of a little bit concerning that they weren't able to convert more of those chances.
The weather in Brussels on Friday night was pretty miserable. I was doing a bit of double screen action going on, and there was some quite heavy rain that was affecting kind of both games. I was watching Anderlecht Futures against Denza, which was obviously overlapping with this game a little bit as well, but they were both on the wrong side of some unpleasant weather. I actually thought Union were a little bit lucky to get this one over the line. Actually, they weren't the only side this weekend to get the result that they wanted to get, but weren't necessarily deserving of getting it. But, you know, you need a little bit of luck sometimes. I think there is still, it would be fair to say, some adjustments going on at Union at the moment. Last week, Boccagnoli was obviously talking about you might see a little bit of rotation for a few weeks as I give some other players a chance, and a chance for me to get to know them better, to see what they can do. So I'm not sure he's necessarily down yet with his strongest starting 11. He's still playing around and tinkering a little bit, which I can kind of understand. That's fair enough. They've not had the worst starts to the season. I mean, I think it's attracting a little bit of attention just because of how they normally start, peerlessly. So for them to have, some, smallish bumps, if you like, is a little bit unlike them in a way. But I think at the moment, the way I look at it is we have to allow them that period of readjustment just to kind of maybe get a sense of maybe where this is going. I think El Hadj is improving. I thought this weekend he was pretty good. He's been a bit non-remarkable so far. You wouldn't necessarily know a player with so much talent had been playing up until recently, but I think he was quite good this weekend, quite creative. But yeah, that period of readjustment is kind of yet to settle. And Charleroi come away from this game almost certainly really frustrated. They thought they'd got a point and they'd probably done enough to get it, even though Union were really the only side kind of trying to get the win. in the end, but a slightly odd game in some respects.
Union ending a 3-game losing streak, of course, as well. 2 of those losses, of course, in Europe. So, okay, I guess we can count that as only as one, but nonetheless quite irregular for them. And talking about streaks, still on a winning streak against Charleroi. They've beaten them all 7 times since their return. Charleroi still only scoring 2 goals in that tie to answer a bit of why they won. Actually, was not so much expected on Ben's question. Many goals. Well, from one side maybe, but from Charleroi, that was not really to be expected. And they were also playing for that point for that draw. Defended quite well actually as well, so that will be indeed very frustrating to then concede through an own error. So and especially so late on in the game, of course. What else? Defending well, but attacking toothless. Charleroi, they wouldn't have mind if they would have gotten away with a point here, but they didn't. So a little bit frustrating. And well, also just noted down, Puerta's not in the squad for Union since he's leaving now. That's also all but confirmed, but very expecting to be confirmed in the very near future. So far, I believe, still unnamed club from the Premier League. I have a suspicion it might be a club that's quite linked to Union as well, actually.
Yeah, when I thought of where he'd go in England, that's kind of like the main fit that I could see. So maybe he'll be wearing the blue and white. Maybe I'll see him around, see him around the streets of Brighton or at work. Who knows? That is yet to be confirmed, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, he'll definitely be a big loss to them. And yeah, Charleroi still looking for an actual striker. Victor Mills he's going through them. He's rotating through them. He's trying to hope that one of these hits. But I think Stulic wasn't in the squad, so I presume he's been kind of told that that's it for him. Maybe they're looking for a way out to get him off the books.
I suppose he might, of course, and we've alluded to this before on at least one occasion. He might yet be on the phone at the last minute to club to ask the question of Romeo Vermaat. Obviously, he's a player he knows very well, can do a job. He featured a little bit this weekend and actually looked very good for his small amount of game time he got. But, there's a player that he knows who could do a job for that club at the moment. Could a deal be done there? So, but Joris also mentioned Charleroi defending being quite good for the most part. It was. Quick shout out to Stelios Andreou, who I thought had a really, really solid game.
Yeah, good old Cypriot defender. He was in with a couple of moves as well, actually. I think I'm kind of heading towards Vermaat probably doesn't leave in this window. I think just based on the start that Nielsen's had and the kind of concern. And then Uklo's not actually looked that great when he's come off the bench either. He's been smashing a couple into the stand. So I think if those two were firing, I think they might be a little bit happy about kind of moving those guys along. But we shall see if that does happen. And yeah, I'm sure DeMille would be like the first one. I'd love to snap him up if he could. Let's move on to Beerschot against Genk. A nice little goal fest in this one. Ewan Henderson obviously getting his first goal for Beerschot since moving over, which was Kronberger probably could have done a bit better. Actually, I'm not going to lie. I think he could have done better on every single one of these goals, especially the Shamanga one where he's for some reason so close to his inside post. It's a little bit ridiculous. Thankfully for him, it didn't really matter in the end because Rakadale scored 2 and Genk just kind of blitzed them within that kind of first half after they conceded. It was just like bang, 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 set pieces, penalties, all the like that. Yeah, Dirk Kuyt's come out and said he still believes that he can keep them up and they can be a good side and stuff like that. And it's like, if you're saying that after 4 games, that's quite worrying. Still no points, no wins, I guess, for Beerschot since coming back. 3 defeats on the bounce, conceding lots of goals. At least this one they did score some goals in, but I don't know. I think Joris, obviously, as the Genk fan, you'll be pretty happy with this, even though Sadiq then did get sent off, so that'll be slightly annoying to be another defender down. And I think for one of the goals, I can't remember which one it was, but Smets was pretty kind of poor, I guess you could say. And another one, Kayembe was out of position, so defensively it was a little bit shaky. But at least you get the win. Barakadari's got 4 goals to start the season, so maybe he's going to get the whatever it is. Did Fink say you get like 99 or something? Something bizarre like that. I can't remember what he said. He said something strange about how he's like the best. He could be the best striker in the world or something like that. So yeah, maybe he's on his way.
Yeah, he himself also said like he's heading to Real Madrid now. So all in a very serious matter, of course. I mean, Florentino, give us a call. I'll arrange it. I'll be happy to arrange it. But definitely some sign of improvement for Beerschot, I guess, in parts of this game. And yeah, indeed, scoring 3 times must be very frustrating in another sense. Charleroi way, of course, to score 3, but still not getting any points out of that. I thought Verlinde had a good game overall. Ran Eluadi ragged. And yeah, of course, but still winless. What else can we say about Beerschot at the moment? I also agree with most of what you said about Genk, but I'll come to that. But Beerschot, the incoming transfer news there, I believe, is mainly they get 2 Saudi internationals, of course, as well. So it will be interesting to see if they will be up to the level. Yeah, they come with some kind of pedigree at least, but yeah, will it be enough? But like I mentioned, I agree with what Ben was saying, that defense really hurt to see at Genk. Van Krombrugge definitely having his share in that malaise as well. At least on the first and the third, I think he could do more. The second, I'm now trying to see how that went. But anyway, also probably could have done better. But that and indeed positional mistakes in defense. Yeah. In a way worrying, because Fink said like in the beginning he was working on defense, but then they also actually didn't concede that many, and later on they were going to focus on the attack. Well, somehow that actually worked. They could have scored a few more even as well still, so I would think that in the end it was a deserved win, but it should have been over, and there should have been more control of that game at certain points in that game with 2-goal leads there. But on the other hand, positives, set pieces, they really train. You could see they trained on them, scored them 2 occasions. One of them really was a trained one. The other one looked more like a standard one, but who knows? Cuesta heading a goal in for probably for his firstborn baby as well. That's why he missed the game against Brugge last week. Still. Unexpectedly, Tolu is at the moment top scorer of the league. I never thought I would say this at any stage of the season. Granted, it's after 4 games only, and also scoring half of that tally against the newly promoted Beerschot, who were clearly not ready for the season yet, and still are not really up to speed. More positive also, of course, El Canus playing, also even getting an assist. Of course, he probably won't be around for too long anymore, but as long as he's there, I'm happy that he can provide with us with that. And relatively remarkable, of course, Beerschot has not always been in the top division, but it was the first win at the Tkiel for Genk in 11 years. So that had been a long while time coming.
Yeah, I mean, I think the positives for Beerschot, let's highlight some of them, because they need some, to be honest. Joris is right. Verlinden was really solid. They're going to need him to be really good all the time, I think. And I thought Simeon Michez had pretty decent game as well, actually. Goal, assist, and created a few opportunities as well. Now the negatives. Charlie Keita, a player who, I think in Matchday, was it Matchday 2, I think? A couple of weeks ago, I said I quite liked the look of him. I thought he could be a handful at this level. I still stand by that. Having said that, my God, he was poor this week. I mean, absolutely nothing from him. Nothing at all. So it's just as well other people were creating something on the Beerschot part. I do wonder if he's a little bit unsettled. There's been a wee bit of interest in him from a couple of clubs, so that may go some way to explaining why he looked like he was elsewhere this weekend. We'll see, but he was hooked after 60 minutes, so fair play to Cow. At least he thought, nah, this isn't happening. I need to change this, and he made the right decision in the end. On Genk, Rokodare, beast beast of a player this weekend, looking like he believes everything that Fink has supposedly told him, puffing that chest out, giving off the "I'm the man" vibes. I thought we might have to temper that, as Joris was saying. It is against Beerschot, so it's difficult to gauge how this sits in the grander scheme of things, I suppose. But yeah, it's a good weekend for him regardless. Stoikers again, another important contribution. He looks like he's starting to kind of feel comfortable there, perhaps, and getting created a lot, as you would expect. But that's the positives for them. Joris is right. I think defensively there are some kind of worries there, and in the end, though they deserve to win the game, conceivably they could quite easily have dropped points here as well, because they kind of won the game the hard way in a way.
Yeah, I'm not the Charlie Cater one. I'm not sure. I think you went too early, Scott. I think you went too early, because the man scored 5 goals last season, 4 goals last season in the Challenger. And then I think that's where their problem is, though, because then they bring on Ayuba Kasaya, who has also only ever scored 5 goals for Beerschot since March 2023. So I think if you count, and even if you're Verlinden, you're like, can someone just buy a striker? I'm not sure what I haven't seen the names of the Saudi guys and stuff like that, but if they've been playing Saudi Pro League, it's a pretty decent level, they're probably going to, you'd presume, be able to at least contribute, maybe. But I don't know, didn't we have a couple of years ago when Erpen got all those Qatari blokes over and nothing happened, did it? It was meant to be like a preamble for the World Cup, and absolutely bugger all came out of that. So interested to see, but they desperately need to just get a move on, really, don't they? Because time's running out. What strikers are actually available that are going to be good enough for them to kind of be able to compete at the level? Because if they can't defend and they can't score, well, they can score in this game, but you want someone at least up front that's going to be constantly scoring. And to be fair, they did miss a penalty in this game as well, so it could have been very, very different if that had gone in. But who knows with Beerschot? We'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks. It's pretty big, this final bit of the transfer window, not just for them, maybe for St. Truden as well, but they faced Dender, and it was the Zarasalam Bertocchini kind of show at points. I think I took the mick out of Zarasalam for not scoring a good goal so far this season. He's scored 2 pretty decent ones in this one. I thought his first one was a really nice finish, but I think all credit has to go to Ito for that pass. That's one of the best passes I've seen, just to kind of track the run, see that Zarasalam's running through, feed it straight to him. I think Ito was just, he looked really, really good this weekend, and it shows that, Lattanzia just kind of letting him play and letting him get on with it. Bertocchini getting that goal was really nice. It was quite a nice counter-attack from them, but then they just throw it all away, don't they? And Simba with that really nice goal. They can't defend that set piece at the end very late on with Ali Ahmed scoring. The Covet goal as well came from a defensive mistake from St. Truden. So they were so close to getting the win we said they would get, but evidently they were like, actually, no, we're going to prove that they're wrong still. We're not going to get the win. We're just going to meander our way. We're going to get the draw. And I think in the grand scheme of things, obviously Dender will be much the happier with the result given how it panned out as well. But kind of if we're looking longer ahead, which we presume these two sides will be down there, that could be a really important point away from home for Dender to deny St. Truden the chance to kind of close the gap. I know it's ridiculously early to say that, but while Dender have started well, there's still nothing to suggest that they won't be down there by the end of the season.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point that Ben's making. Even Vincent Everard was actually saying that in the aftermath of this game. He said, look, we played quite well. We've been playing quite well generally. The confidence is increasing. You can see that in them. We've been talking about that ourselves, but he said, despite 8 points from 12, which is a great opening return, it doesn't mean anything yet, of course. It's back to last week's caveat and the one the week before of it's still far too early to see any real trends yet, despite how good their start has been. And I just found it interesting that was one of the immediate points he wanted to drill home to the wider world and the media after this game. This for me was game of the weekend. I thought this was a really entertaining game, a lot of really good football played, particularly in Dender's part, open, expansive stuff, the sort of football in lots of ways that St. Truden, funnily enough, were playing under Fink last year, really, really good. And St. Truden actually more than played their part in making this a good game. They started poorly. Dender were really strong in the opening 20 minutes, got the first goal. St. Truden managed to turn it around, and you thought, okay, maybe they're getting a grip of this game. But of course, with that defence, nothing's done until it's done, and they couldn't quite get that win. To be fair to Christian Lattanzio, actually, despite all of their issues, and they've got quite a few at the moment, I will at least say he's being pretty positive, or as positive he can be with what he's got to work with. He's playing more attacking players than arguably necessarily needs to. So he's trying to play offensive football and trying to play in the front foot, much like they did under Fink, which I think is the right way to go. But obviously the balance isn't quite right. We know that the real issue is the defence. Bertuccini, funnily enough, who got a goal this weekend, a rather good one as well, I thought it was. Lovely move, lovely counter-attacking move. He was making the point himself after this game. He said, look, we all know what the issue is. It is ultimately defence. And he even went as far as to say, look, see if we sort that out. He says, we're a side that, can stay in this league and kind of do all right. I think they have probably more issues than just that, although he's right in that that's the main issue. But yeah, game management is a bit of an issue for them as well, I think, at the moment. Dender's midfield, incidentally, I thought were really good this weekend as well. Had a really solid grip in most of this game. Ferraro, Viltard and Simba and Harankia, really, really solid games, all four of them. And I thought they were solid physically. They're getting better physically, Dender. So yeah, probably the most entertaining game of the weekend, not just because of the number of goals we got. We could have got more. On conceding, incidentally, St Trude have conceded 14 now, and in their last 3, 4, 6 and 3. So not really an improvement. So, the defence is still struggling, and Lattanzio is, I think, still struggling to find what might be, if there is an answer to that.
Yeah, I also had noted down Bertaccini basically criticizing his own defense quite openly in front of the cameras. It's always a bit strange when players do that, but like over the past couple of weeks, we have actually seen it a lot. Everything to not put the blame completely on their own, I guess, a little bit as well. For Sint-Truiden, first point, I guess, yes, that's a good point, but same thing as with Beerschot, scoring 3 and not getting away with it, much. At least they got 1 point, but not getting a win. Still worrying for very much. Dender, on the other hand, have never won 3 games in a row in top division. So that's a noteworthy fact. Okay, they haven't actually not spent that much time in a top division either. So that partially explains that. And I guess they will still be the more happy of the teams here. Still unbeaten, of course. So they do maintain that run. I also noted down quite noteworthy. I had mentioned him in the preview, but Ali Akman. But I did not expect him to score with a header with his 1.73 m. So that was quite easy to concede from the Sevilla defense, of course. And I also found it funny. Okay, also a talking point, maybe even still, but Evraar is actually talking about the VAR buzz still in his post-match interview. Well, it's already since a few years not a buzz anymore. Of course, that was about the phase where in Simba's second goal, I'm not sure if it would have been his first goal, was disallowed. Well, where he was blocking the goalkeeper and the ball went in when the goalkeeper shot at him. It was disallowed. That's a bit of a talking point, I guess, after this game as well. Still, difficult to judge from here. I think, although we saw Vittles's goal in the playoffs, notably last year, that did go in and was allowed, but I can't remember whether it was completely the same movement or moving away from the ball and stuff like that. And the explanation was a little bit vague from the referee. From hearsay from the referee. Let's put it that way.
I feel like if I remember, the Vetlesen was like Morris just kicked it at him. Don't think he did what Nsimba did to like put his foot out. But I'm also like, goalkeeper's got a lot of kind of, he can kick it beyond him or over him. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it should be a legitimate play. It's not like he was in the box either. He's out of the box. He's doing it outside the box. I feel like it's one of those really soft ones that they get sometimes. But in the end, at least they got a point. Otherwise, they'd have been probably moaning about that even more. But I don't know. Football politics, they probably don't get listened to that much if it's Dender. It probably just gets kind of like, oh yeah, whatever, it's just Dender. Do you know what I mean? Which is not right. Shouldn't be the thing. But yeah, can't imagine it would be any different. Let's go to the Mechelen Anderlecht Saturday night game. Scott's favourite striker scored. Leon Lauberbach. It was actually a really nice finish, quite a nice move as well. Just a few minutes before that, he'd missed I think Rob Scoofs had played him through and he missed it, and he just scored. Scoofs just like throw his hands up in the air like in just disgust, and I was like, oh, body language. Note that one down for the pod. I feel like Scoss is pretty frustrated with his striker at the moment, but then he scored and then he went off injured. So it's kind of like a bizarre moment for him. Augustinson equalised, and then the Amuzugar I thought was a really nice goal from him, just absolutely blasted it past De Wolf. Leone's goal was even better, just the way he burst through, ran round the keeper and put it in, even though the defence was pretty shocking at that point from Mechelen, who had lots of shots, but didn't really find a way to score anymore. Koosman's actually made a couple of really, really decent saves. He's you can tell, playing himself into being that number one goalkeeper and trying to really prove the point that he should be the number one goalkeeper. At the moment, there's a couple of things probably working against him. The first is that he's not Danish. The second is he actually has never played for Brian Reamer before at Brentford, so he can't really be considered, which is why we saw Mr. Zanka at the back, who got an assist on his debut, Düsseldorf legend. Looking at Zanka just reminds me of like COVID and when we got relegated during the COVID year, so it's quite a depressing sight. Bless him, not his fault. But he's 34, he's played for Brentford and he's Danish, so he's obviously going to come to Anderlecht. But ultimately only got to play midfield, so I'm happy about that. Leone's probably a lot more happy about that. Anderlecht get the win, they stay unbeaten, but people aren't happy. People are not happy with how it's all going at the moment, and perhaps they are just kind of clinging on and just winning in spite of everything, and at some point it's all going to come crashing down. But at the moment, Reamer could just turn around and be like, we're winning games and we're top of the league, like what more do you want? Entertaining football, I think, is the answer.
I think this Anderlecht narrative is one we're going to come back to quite a few times before we finally, resolve it, I suppose, or it resolves itself, which it will in some way, one way or the other. There's a mainstream media narrative around Anderlecht at the moment that I think is only partially true. And I find it frustrating because although there are some deep-seated truths in there that are important, there are also some other ones that are deep-seated and important that aren't part of the conversation when people say Anderlecht's football isn't particularly good at the moment. I think from Jesper Fredberg's point of view, and I think I said this last week, if the window's still open and you're hoping to do more business and you're getting results when you're not necessarily playing that well, that's a positive sign at the moment. So the upside is if you improve and you get another 2 or 3 players in of reasonable quality in the right positions and you can improve, then that is a potentially ominous sign for a lot of the other sides in the league. From Brian's point of view, he's sitting there thinking, okay, I'm doing a job at the moment. Please, help me out here, as I was saying. But yeah, I think it's too early to make some of these judgments. The people who've made the judgment already are that section of the Anderlecht support who've already decided that Brian Reimer's not for them pretty much under any circumstances. Once you lose these people, it's almost impossible to get them back. The only thing that might do that is winning the title, but even then there's probably caveats for them in there. So it's a horrible situation from Anderlecht's point of view, and one that's probably very frustrating for them. The next couple of weeks might not be season defining for them, but they're going to give us a lot of answers. Surely they will improve. I mean, they're not playing as badly, I think, as some people are suggesting. I had a look at some of the underlying numbers. It's not great, but it's not. It's not the alarm bells that some people are sounding, I don't think at all. It's just the entertainment factor that's missing. And perhaps I'm seeing something slightly different to a lot of other people. I don't mind admitting that. I don't think it's quite as bad as some people think at the moment. Maybe going through the rest of the season, maybe I'll lose my own will, as some people already have. But I'm not there yet. I'm more open-minded as to the way that this might go for them. 10 out of 12 points, strong start, regardless of which way you look at it, and that's always going to be, the coaching staff's answer, and it would probably be my answer in their situation as well. The question for Anderlecht actually is, how do they dominate games? We know they need to dominate the midfield more, obviously, to be able to control games. That's probably where the interest in a certain Nicholas Dorsch comes from. They've reached personal terms with him, but there's no agreement on a fee yet. He's a player who is probably more offensive than Matt Ritz in the middle there. So maybe that's where, they think the answer might lie. We'll see if they can bring him in or not. Brian Reimer talking a lot about wanting more control on the ball. more discipline, you know what I mean, close down those spaces. Sometimes, you know, they're leaving, you know, themselves a wee bit too wide open, I think he finds that frustrating because they do have a lot of positive counter-attacking qualities as well. So there are tweaks and adjustments there that may come with players that come in. They'll certainly be working on anyway. From Mechelen's point of view, I think they had a right good go, to be fair. They did have a go at this Anderlecht side, knowing that there was some fragilities in there. Left themselves a wee bit too wide open, in all honesty, as well, which was part of their own downfall. Patrick Fluck, a player I've been open about quite liking, he had a pretty good game this weekend. And Goy, I have to say, doing himself no favours at all when it comes to getting maybe another opportunity. Really, really horrendous miss at a kind of key moment, really, in the game, and for him probably personally. And interestingly, listening to some of Hazi's comments post-match, I found a little bit depressing. He was talking about my least favourite player, Leon Lagerbath, and actually said, look, when he dropped out, we absolutely had no alternatives to that, which I just, you know, it may be true to a certain extent, but it's just such a depressing admission when you know what their main issue is, and that is a half-decent striker, and that isn't Leon, I'm afraid, despite how hard he works. He did also say that he thought some of Mechelen's choices in the game, particularly from a defensive point of view, were amateurish at times. He was really honest about that. So he is still frustrated, and it feels like he's been frustrated pretty much since week 2 of the season, after that pretty decent result of the Jan Breidel when spirits were up. Since then, he's been a little bit prickly, but 2 points out of 12 is a slight worry. And I think if they don't bring in a striker, whoever that is, they're still after Norman Bassett, can't agree a fee around 3 million. They do have that money there, so if he's the man they want, he's the number one, they really need to go and get it done, I think. If someone doesn't come in, then there are some slightly worrying signs that this could be quite a long, hard season for them.
Yeah, maybe he's also still frustrated, of course, that he had to sign again at Mechelen and did not get his move after leaving initially.
Yeah, the irony.
That might also play a little role in that, but of course the results won't help, albeit they did not have the easiest schedule of them all up till now, of course. So there are some mitigating factors there, even though they even got a good point at Glumie. But nonetheless, good first. I wanted to say half, but 40 minutes is actually the truth, because of course in the final 5 minutes of the half, the game had turned around in score, at least already from them. Yeah, and that Lauterbach injury, like, he actually was having a pretty decent game, even with missing a chance, a big chance. He should have scored more, but nonetheless, probably one of his better games in Mechelen shirt so far. It's a bit, I can understand that it's a bit of frustration, and also the comments from Hazi, specifically in regards to this game. Yeah, that injury changed the course of the game a little bit as well, from their perspective. Anyway, yeah, but they are not being efficient. Not only him, but and Goy indeed as well with a big miss, and a few others. Kozmans, of course, also being basically man of the match here. That does not help them, of course. But yeah, not very efficient and not taking many points so far. As Scott already mentioned as well. And also that in relation to Riemer's comments, then, like, that he felt like Anderlecht had not been efficient, but then, like, I think he still should be happy that their opponent was not efficient as they should have been. In this case, at least. In other games, maybe that might be different. But if there's one quality that you can't deny Anderlecht at the moment, is that they are not efficient. So they definitely are taking most of the chances they get. Yeah, the Amusu goal was a good one on one hand. On the other hand, it's always still that it's the first corner for the goalkeeper as well. So of course it's from close and it's super hard, so it's difficult. But nonetheless, it was more before that. It was so easy that he got there, the position anyway, of course, after a quick corner. But yeah, still. But yeah, Anderlecht, in regards to the points, definitely no complaints there. I think top of the league. 7 goals made by 7 different players, or own goal. That also counts as a different player here. That's also a remarkable fact. Also, 7 goals only after 4 games. I think I don't know. I didn't check it, but I know a fair few teams actually have scored more. already. Antwerp did almost as many in one game, even to mention one. Yeah. And yeah, Koolsemans indeed man of the match and hoping for a first goalkeeper spot. It's a tough one. I don't think it will happen, to be honest. I hope for certain Anderlecht fans that are already unhappy, I hope that doesn't happen either, because I think it would be a bit too much just going with the flow with the daily events there if that would happen. Although, admittedly, they already have a Danish goalkeeper they brought in last winter for 1.5 million, one of the strangest transfers especially in that position of them still throwing that kind of money to a guy that is now third goalkeeper or so. I do not know even Mats Kickenborg. Yeah, at least definitely clearly no real trust in him from Riemer and. Yeah, and also it's not under Riemer. It's not only, of course, the transfer window going a bit slow for them, but yeah, in the playing style, in the entertainment factor, but also for Anderlecht fans, also important, of course. Yeah, he's often not choosing for the youth option when there is one, and he's not really bringing them even in case of emergencies, like we saw. Touched on in the beginning already. I've touched on it on the past few weeks already. Anyway, with the central defender, a situation which now seems to be a bit more under control, not completely, I would say. I think they still could use maybe one more, or actually use some young talents there. But under Riemer, I think it was at least one. I believe last season was the first season in I don't know exactly how many, but where no young player actually has made a debut in the starting 11. Still played, of course, but not in the starting 11 in the league. So that's another thing that will frustrate Anderlecht fans next to the entertainment factor. So that it's not only that, but yeah. So far they're doing well in their points haul, at least. So I guess if it keeps on going like that, the sounds may change, but. So far, I still have like I already mentioned to you guys. I still have a feeling it's easier gonna be. It's more likely that they will implode than they will really improve a lot in the regular constellation of the squad at the moment.
Yeah, it doesn't help that one of the players that's probably been their most kind of efficient in contributing to stats with goals and assists is coming off the bench in the 85th minute, which won't help the fans either when he was probably one of their best players last season. It doesn't really make much sense why he's not starting. Now, he'd be, for me, if I was an Anderlecht man, obviously I'm not there on the training ground or that sort of stuff, but Maris Schoikens he's in my starting 11. He's one of what I think one of the top talents in this league, especially at that age and stuff like that. So, yeah, let's quickly touch on what Anderlecht have coming up. They've obviously got the UEFA League qualification kind of final round against Dynamo Minsk. Quite an interesting one, given obviously Belarusian team, so aren't allowed to play at home. So Anderlecht's away game is in the middle of nowhere. It's literally a random town in the middle of Hungary. Literally, you go on Google Maps and you can just see the stadium. You can see a Lidl and a station in Mezőkövesd, or the Mezőkövesd Stadium. I know that one of the other Belarusian teams that I used to follow during COVID, they had to go and play here for their home game as well. And yeah, it is just proper random. So they should have absolutely no problem with Dynamo Minsk. But if they do have any problems with Dynamo Minsk, the pressure is just going to go through the roof. So I think Dynamo, just to kind of give I think they're third in the Belarusian league, couple of games behind kind of Neman Grodno and Torpedo Zordino. So they're still well in with a shout of winning that league. And they really shouldn't have any problems with Dynamo Minsk, that's for sure. But how often have we said that on this podcast about teams shouldn't have any problem with team X or Team Y, and then they no doubt go and do have some problem with Team X or Team Y. So good luck to them. We'll touch a bit on the Conference League later when we talk about those teams, but there's some cracking ties outside of the Belgian ones where we're going to have teams from very random leagues making it to the group stages, which I think is just, what European football's all about. I got very confused, and Scott thankfully corrected me and guided me as to why Club Brugge weren't playing anyone, because I was like, I'm pretty sure Antwerp had to qualify last year, but obviously the whole format's changed, so Club are straight through to the Champions League. They got their first win of the season against Antwerp. I just sent you guys the FootMob kind of screenshot of how bad Nielsen had been playing. I think literally a second later it pops up that he scores from the spot to make it 1-0. Antwerp fans in trouble for launching stuff at him off the back of that, which is just stupidity. And they're not the only ones that did it this week, and they're the only ones that should be fined. With those sort of things, I just want them to find the culprits. To be honest, I feel like that's the main thing. Find the culprits, ban them from the stadium, ban them from matches. I think that's the best way to do it. Relief, I guess, guys. They were helped by an old friend, Dennis Adoy, getting himself sent off. What a lovely return that was for him. But yeah, they get the win. Not massively convincing, but Nielsen gets his goal. Maybe this will give him the confidence. I don't know. It was from the spot, so I'm not entirely sure. He wasn't having the best of games up until then anyway, but at least they got a clean sheet and a win. They're kind of off and running for the season. Yeah,
I think relief is the key word. I was unconvinced. I thought, I thought they wanted it. They looked like they wanted it, and, we're trying, if you like. But I did think, but for that penalty, do they win that game? And I don't think they do. So much like Union, they got a little bit of luck this week. They'll be hoping that allows them to turn the corner now. The word from inside the camp is that everyone is very much, from a playing perspective, still on board with Nicky Ian. They want to play for him. And I think the fuse inside club for a period that's, a little bit awry, shall we say, is shorter than it would even normally be. I think the experience with Ronnie Deila has perhaps highlighted to the management that, as soon as you go off piste a little bit, then immediately, you're going to get almost no leeway. And actually watching Nicky Ian on the touchline, back to me and my body language observations again, he looked like a man who was really, really anxious. So the rumours, such as they were, about the ultimatum that was or wasn't about winning this game, I'm inclined to believe that there was, heavy hints, even if they weren't frank conversations there, because he looked like a man who was, really anxious and desperate to get that game over the line. He did, and he will hope that that's the wheel turning now. So yeah, relief the key word. I thought Romeo Vermaat looked really good for the short period he came on. I like him a lot. I think he's a player who's got a lot to offer. He's not going to start too many games. Be interesting to see what happens, whether he does hang around or not, because he probably will get some offers. Nielsen's start has been unconvincing, is probably the word. He's readjusting and finding his feet and playing in a different system, I suppose. And again, like lots of other quandaries and situations from a tactical point of view, it's kind of too early to know whether that's going to work for club or not. But yeah, let's see what happens. But I didn't see any evidence really this weekend of some kind of fire and passion in a way that suggests that maybe they're going to go on a serious run yet. From Antwerp's perspective, I thought, for the most part, solid positive stuff. Not necessarily doing enough to win the game, but it wasn't too bad. The penalty for me is just daft. Vermaat is very clever. Looking at his reaction on winning the penalty tells you everything you need to know. He entices him into the challenge. He knows he doesn't get the ball. He goes down, and 9 times out of 10, the player is getting a pen for that, which is what happened. So, he sucked him in there quite smartly, I thought. He just didn't need to do that. It's a game management thing for me. Antwerp will be disappointed because of that, because they had an ultimately decent game. Probably had the better of the chances in a way when you look at the actual chances in the game, not doing enough to win it, but, coming away frustrated because they didn't get that point. But club, much like Union, for me, not doing enough to get the win, but getting it. Let's see, like Union, if that is a springboard for them now, and in any way reduces that lingering anxiety in-house.
And like Union, they have a really good record against that opponent as well for lately. So I don't know exactly. I think it's a bit less long, but I believe it's the last 2 years or so, Club Brugge have not lost against Antwerp. already. And of course, getting that first win of the season, as you guys touched on. The main question, but that stays, of course, then will they indeed now go on a run and Nicky Hayen be wearing only a black shirt in winter? Yeah, well, we'll see. Maybe we'll find out. Maybe we won't have to. Maybe after the next game, it's already over. But who knows? Yeah, it was quite weird to say, I guess, the Odoi treatment by the fans, knowing he was one of the people that actually made them champions only, 3 months ago? Little less than 3 months ago, even, I guess. Now getting booed all the time. Arguably also getting a red card that he would not have gotten in another color, and well, if he was in their next last season, because that second challenge, it's a clumsy one, I guess, but he didn't really touch anything, so sometimes they're given, I guess, but it's still quite severe, regardless of that first comment of mine that was maybe a bit too much, but just just in any color they generally don't really get given. You guys did as well. Scott mentioned it about Antwerp. Actually getting the better of the chances, and most of them as well. I think missing them. Playing well but not being efficient. A very stupid challenge indeed from Doumbia. And the flares next to Nilsson also already have been mentioned at the most stupid moment of the game. Even though the Antwerp fans also had a few nice banners, funny banners at least, in regards to recent events with Club Brugge fans. Unfortunately, that also they had their good and their bad moments in the game themselves, I guess, as a fan group. With Antwerp, they also have not the easiest start. Just not sure if it's already a worrying sign or indication, but against the two top sides, they actually played quite well. So in Anderlecht and in Club Brugge, but don't get away with any of the points. Maybe later on we will get to that again. Maybe it becomes a topic throughout the season. Maybe it doesn't, but early indications, maybe just in general, that their efficiency needs to increase. Then again, last week they put 6 behind Sint-Truiden, of course. So I guess it's also a bit of the dividing goals across the games, I guess, a little bit.
I suppose we can expect Antwerp to receive some sort of punishment after the fan behaviour. The one that got me, the flares thing, I think is bad enough, but the one that got me actually when I was looking at some of the detail was the supposed arrows. If they were arrows, projectiles anyway, that landed in the home support from the away area and the corner of the stand, at the Ambryda where the away fans are housed. A couple of club fans needing hospital treatment from projectiles that were thrown, and they weren't just plastic cups. They were, of a weaponry nature, shall we say, is really, really daft. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of punishment they get there, because we know that, it could range from anything from a fine to, fans being locked out.
Yeah, absolutely. We've already had that a couple of games this season so far already. So, that's more than likely. And I think, it kind of, what you're saying about how Antwerp have played well but lost to those two kind of bigger or more favoured sides, I guess, to win the title or be in a title race this year. I think that kind of sums up where we thought Antwerp would be, wouldn't it, this season? That they'd be kind of up there, but not quite at the level of these other clubs that should be pushing for the title and stuff like that. We mentioned efficiency a lot, and to be fair, I think with that Sint-Truiden game, I think anyone could have scored those goals because Sint-Truiden just were giving them to them on a plate. Leuven also suffered from a lack of efficiency. Their goal was nice, to be fair. It was a nice cross from Conan and Dree. He did it from out wide, which I think is where his better position is, not down the centre. But Oscar Garcia just continues to play him down the centre, despite now having some strikers in the squad. He's persisting with that. Maziz with a nice header. Even with 10 men, they still had chances. Vardason made a couple of decent saves. Nice for Denki to get his first goal of the season. It's just, we're waiting to see his second goal of the season. I've just been corrected. Thank you very much. His first goal with his head for a while, though. I think that's what I was thinking, because Scott made a mention of that to us in the chat. But
couldn't believe it. It's a rare thing.
It was a nice finish as well. I guess the more concerning for Circle is injury to Thibaut Sommers. He had to actually start. He was playing like right back in this game. That kind of shows how kind of depleted they are and moving things around. So he had to go off. But at least they got Gary Magny, who can basically play anywhere across the midfield and can also fill in at fullback. So he's going to be a decent signing just in terms of squad depth. Which, yeah, it's nice to see him back in the Pro League. I think he definitely deserved it after being a shining light in a terrible Pandas side last season. But 1-1. Yeah, I think Leuven will be really disappointed that they didn't manage to score more. Circle, on the other hand, I think once Leuven went down to 10 men, they'd have probably liked to have been a little bit more kind of taking the game and winning this one.
Do you know, I thought this was quite a fascinating game tactically. I quite enjoyed this one. Quite open as well, which is always a good thing. Yeah, I mean, I've been saying for the last couple of weeks that I feel that Leuven are improving, and there's plenty of evidence actually when you look at some of the underlying numbers that they are, but they certainly are offensively. They're creating more, there's more structure to it as well, and they just look like they might win some games, which obviously gives them, a chance. So, they look like a side who, and it is too early perhaps to predict this yet, but some of the early indications are they're maybe a side who are certainly not going to be in the kind of struggle they were in last year because of some of the signings that they've made. But we will see. In the end, actually, Ben was talking about how Leuven will be disappointed not to have won it, which I think is true because they had the better of the opportunities. Varlason more than made sure that Cercle got their point. He had a save very late on that was almost a match-winning save, one of those. It was great, actually. Probably their best player. Summer's been injured for them, as Ben was saying, is a real sore one. We know how big and important a player he is in that camp for lots of reasons, but he's been really good. We've already said this so far this season. He's been really, really good since the start of the season. So they will hope that he's not out for kind of too long because of that. They're using their squad again a lot. Cercle, that's a deliberate thing. As I was saying last week, Rembert Vermaat kind of confirmed that to me. We're going to see a lot of that this season because obviously they're hoping to be playing an increased number of games, European group stage football, more on that in a second, I'm sure. Big Miran Muslic using the squad to its fullest, bringing on a certain Alan Minda coming back in, not doing too much, but he has reappeared. We know what he can do and he's really on it. And we saw Paris Brunner as well, who came in a few days ago. Dortmund product. He's come in on loan until the end of the season, striker. We know that big Kevin Denke, is almost certainly going to be going before the window closes. So this is where Paris Brunner coming in now and early becomes very important. I thought in the little bit of game time he got, there are some little inklings that he could be decent. We'll see how it kind of turns out, but he looks really hungry to me and he speaks like somebody who's hungry. So I think he's going to enjoy getting sent out by Monaco to go and play some regular football at a really good level. That could be kind of quite a mutually beneficial acquisition for them, albeit that it is just a loan. They've got that double header coming up against Wisla Krakow for a Conference League group stage place, but it's bigger than that as well because over the next few games they've got Ghent at home, they're then the away side in the Bruges derby, and then they've got Genk away as well. So huge European game and some really, really big domestic games. So it's for them, it's about to go up a gear. But back to Leuven, again, that slowed ascent, if you like, seems to be kind of continuing for them. And Oscar Garcia will still be quietly encouraged about, the reasonable start to the season being maintained.
At the same time, a little bit worrying. No one marking Dinky on his goal. That was it was a bit easy to concede. That one, and of course a debut red card for Gil. That's is usually not something you'd like to see, but okay. Also, additionally, still a little worry, still unbeaten, of course, so that's a really good thing. But they're really still struggling to really get it over the line to get a win. Okay, in this case, yeah, indeed, to score one extra goal, they never were in front, but. Yeah, struggling to win games, which is, of course, crucial to not get into trouble at some point along the season. But okay, only 4 games in. I guess it's still a positive where they are at the moment, and maybe it can go up from here still. And for Cercle, there are obviously some elements missing, not only just literal pieces and players in the form of players, but the feeling is a bit different to me as well during the games. Like, we've touched on that already a bit, like the defense really looking shaky. It feels like, even though some of the players like Somers actually have been really good across the season, the start of the season, but that somehow it's not clicking yet, at least as much as it was the last season. Definitely Warleson score saving that point for them in this game. Yeah. Also, I noted it passed quite silently. I think also here it hasn't been mentioned yet, but I had one of the misses of the season so far as well, though, for Olaigbe, I think, because he does well to get to the ball, but it was quite for an open goal mouth in the end. Just. Not that's an example of something that maybe last season would have gone in, and then they quite silently, even if it wasn't the best of games either, they would have gone on the way with the win. I'm not ringing alarm bells here, but okay, I didn't know about the schedule yet, as Scott now mentioned, so the alarm bells started slowly to ring as well, not completely. I believe after last season, there's bound to be, and rightfully so some trust in the way things are going, and then the management is sportive management is doing things. But they will have to ideally get some points out of those difficult games as well now, as they did not have the best of starts. In both in points as in the way they're playing and defending, especially. So far. Paris Brunner, of course, hot prospect. One of the players of the World Cup in under 17s last year. It's always top 3. I don't know if it was second or third. I don't think he won the complete award. It doesn't really matter, but definitely highly regarded, and nice to see how he will develop, and if he can already do it because, like, obviously I said under 17, so he's still really young. If he can add something to that squad, first signs are looking bright on that one, and that could already be a lot of help for these next few games and the rest of the season, of course, to pick it up again.
Yeah, they might have to do some shopping for a new central defender with Jesper Darland on his way to Cardiff City as well, which is going to be a big loss. And I feel that's such a rubbish move. I'm just going to have to say it. I think it was a terrible move. Having seen players that Cardiff have picked up over the last couple of years and how bad they've turned out. One Reading player that went there, he's not really done anything. Wilfred Kanga's there, and he looked like he had a terrible debut. They got absolutely battered, I think, the other week. I think it was this weekend. So they definitely need Jesper. So that means he won't be there for the Wisła Krakow game. A game they should absolutely win. A tie they simply have to win. You can't get knocked out over 2 legs to a Polish second division side, regardless of what they've achieved so far to get to this stage. But I mean, Wisła are already 4 games into their season. They've only won 1 in the league, and this is their third season in the Polish second division as well. So they've not got out of it for a while. They won the cup, which is why they're here, which is obviously an amazing achievement. But yeah, it's definitely a side that Circle should be able to comfortably overcome, even with some of the injuries they've got. I think the kind of young squad players and these guys that we're just mentioning as well should be able to come to the fore and hopefully see them through against Wisła and make their way into the Conference League, which would be fantastic. I think it's something we all want them to do. Be such a rich reward for what they did last season. I think the Conference League will suit them down to a T. I feel they'll kind of fit in there with kind of the fun other ties that they've got going on. So yeah, that'd be great. One side that would love to be involved in European football are Standard Liège, who conceded their first goal of the season in this game. Mr. Matteo Polo was a busy boy in the goal, that's for sure. He made some absolutely fantastic saves. It felt like he was on a mission to get them a point in this one. He was, I think it was just kind of his standout performance for me. But Thierry Ambrose got the goal. The Lawrence red card, I'm so kind of sure about it. Like, it feels just like one of those ones that I'm just like, is it a red light? He's just a little bit slow to the ball, but I don't feel like it's there's no malicious intent to do harm or do injury and stuff. It's just like, he's just a little bit late. I feel like you could easily just given a yellow and moved on like from that one. But at the end of the day, that wasn't the case. He gets sent off and that kind of kills anything Standard wanted to do. And they just kind of looked to counter for most of the game. Later on, we saw Goodison just being pelted by bottles from the Standard Liège fans, which was just awful, really, really bad. There was like full bottles of Coke as well. Like, it's not even like those empty bottles. Like, they could have done some real damage. It's just so unnecessary. But yeah, I think Ambrose has done enough to say, look, you need to start me in these games. I think he was just, when he came on, he brought some energy, some urgency to their game that they desperately needed. But they played quite well. They should have scored way more goals than they did, and it'd be interesting to see what the game would have been like if Standard had kept all of their players on the pitch. But yeah, these are again games that Kortrijk didn't win last season, so we got to give them some kudos for that, because they must. I haven't looked at the numbers, but they probably have got more points than they got this time last year. I'm sure one of you might have dug that out, but I'm sure they must be on more points than they were at the same stage last season.
Well, Frere Alexanderson said he was satisfied with that, which, I can understand, because, last week after their bad result, he was quite frank about it not being good enough. He's pretty angry about that. Talking after the game about, obviously, getting a degree of consistency going being key to, real progress. But the one thing I took away from what he said post-match was his comment about, he did say, look, if players don't reach a basic level, you're going to get into trouble. And, that's obviously his succinct analysis of really their season last season. Yeah, I mean, a bit like Ben, I have this feeling that I think they would have won the game anyway, even aside from the red card, which Ivan Leko feels was the deciding factor in the end. He said, there wasn't that much in it. He's very angry with Henry Lawrence, Ivan Leko. He had quite a lot to say about this afterwards, going as far as to say, I actually told him to specifically wear metal studs because the turf at the Guildensporen is reportedly well known for being quite soft and wet. I mean, a turf being wet isn't unusual. Most of them get watered in most circumstances anyway, but apparently it's known for being quite soft. So he told him, and Lawrence apparently still chose to wear plastic studs. So then he slips, according to Leko, going into the challenge. And that's where the momentum comes that makes it look, worse than it was. I don't know. I mean, it's funny, this comment, because surely Leko would have told the entire playing staff, look, lads, you're all wearing metal studs here because of this turf. Surely you wouldn't just address that to one play. The whole thing seems a wee bit odd to me anyway. It's kind of probably a bit of a smokescreen, to be honest, for the fact that they were just garbage Standard. They did, again, no shots on target, like them last week. And it's kind of a return to the standard that we saw for the majority of last season, not offering anything at all. And they've started the season, all things considered, actually reasonably positively, hadn't conceded, all of those things. So something to build on, if you like. And this will be a frustrating return to pulling your hair out type stuff for Ivan Leko. But Kortrijk will take that every day of the week and move on from it, because they had to get that poor performance last week out of their system, because that was just a no-show.
If I am not mistaken, the Kortrijk now got... Well, last season, Kortrijk got over the line of this because they won that game. So I think they ended up at 7 points after that at the stage at game day 11, if I'm not mistaken, if I counted that correctly, at the end of October anyway. So yeah, looks like they will surpass that this time. There are no signs that isn't going to happen. Haven't lost against Standard in more than 2 years as well. That's also something that probably hasn't happened that often throughout history, or even at all. That I'm not completely sure. But good win for them, obviously, even though they still made it quite difficult on themselves at times, in Epolo as well, of course. That's that. I think I found Kaneko quite having a good game, running around also after lost balls, like adding something, just maybe just that fights that will to fight for the ball that's probably transpires to the whole squad a bit more than it did last season, or parts of last season at least. And it of course it might be good news for them, of course, also that the Brecht de Jager is coming back now to talk a bit about the transfer activity there as well. Regardless of I don't know how his level still is at the moment, but it can't be that bad, I suppose, and it will be a nice addition to the squad. And for Standard, this time the Arsenal score not going their way, still going on with that team, but And if you look at it solely on that point, not very entertaining games. One goal and scored, one goal against after 4 games. I guess at times the way they have played actually has been a bit more entertaining, but also only at times. I'm actually maybe one game that actually might have been only the game against the Brugge that they actually won as well, because I remember against Genk it wasn't. Yeah, and last week I also don't think there was much excitement about the game. So yeah,
you wouldn't be suggesting that our Ivan is trying to sow a narrative of his own that might only be a partial truth.
Yeah, well, it's not what we're used to from his sides, of course. Although last season as Standard, it was not necessarily the case either, of course. And okay, you don't see them that often anymore anyway, or just in general, like indirect free kicks. But I think the one Standard gave was probably one of the worst I've seen in a long while. Just hitting it straight at the wall, not trying to surpass it or being tricky or trying to hit it high or anything. Even that would have been better, even if it would have just ahead of someone when trying to hit high. But nothing of that. And that while we know Bulat actually has quite a decent set piece in him, but the indirect one needs some practice. Well, probably because it doesn't happen that often, it's actually isn't practice. I can't imagine.
The best bit about that was Gunnarsson being like, "What do you mean it's a free kick?" It's like, but you got the ball passed back to you from like the halfway line from your own player. Like, how could you not realise that was actually going to be a free kick? Yeah, it's ridiculous. Let's go to Ghent for Ghent Westerlo. Yeah, last year I was at this game when it was Ghent Westerlo, and Westerlo had played really well and Ghent were terrible, but in this game it was Ghent who were actually pretty decent. Westerlo obviously in form side, but Ghent blitzed them in the first basically half an hour to make it 3-0. They must be sick of the sight of Omri Gandelman now. He scored so many goals against them. It's just ridiculous. Serdamatch did get one, but the Lorg goals, so like the little flick from Dean, the run through from the Lorg, that was such a nice kind of icing on the cake. I wrote a piece saying I think this is the bursting of the Westerlo bubble as well as truly happened, because who saw Ghent coming and doing this? Because I definitely didn't after they laboured to that extra time win over Silkeborg in the Conference League qualification, but somehow they just decided to turn up in this one and absolutely take Westerlo, the side that have started the season so well, completely apart.
Yeah, kind of odd, really, isn't it? When you think about it, I was quite surprised by this as well. And the game, pivots on this mad 6-minute spell where you get 3 goals. And Ghent it kind of all clicked for them really this weekend. Wouter Rankin was talking about how he felt privately like they had this in them, but it just hadn't happened yet. And it was a kind of confidence issue, and that maybe they just needed it to happen once for them to kind of feel it. But it certainly happened. They created a lot. They were impressive. Really good use of space for the most part in this game. Something that Wouter Rankin's been talking about since the start of the season. Them just feeling that they're not using it's the Reimer criticism of not using the ball intelligently at the right moments, either making bad choices and by default then you don't use the space well. But yeah, everything just clicked for them. And Rankin was talking about how he now feels that they're making some progress. Maybe it's just, it's a bit like Club and Union. Is it the one result that might mean things kind of click into place in a way for you? We don't know the answer to that, but they have had a good week despite, slightly labouring to the European win. So they can, feel good about the last few days. Timmy Simons was, I think, quite philosophical about it. He said, look, you can't, talking specifically about that 6-minute spell, reflecting on it, saying you can't make bad choices and communicate badly, which is what you put that 6-minute spell down to. The wrong pass, the wrong choice, not communicating clearly, getting you into trouble for all 3 of those goals, because a side against quality when they're on it, as we saw this weekend, are never going to let you away with that, and that's what happened. Having said that, they gave it a good go, really. They were much better later on in the game and made David Roth do a little bit of work. So despite it being a deserved Ghent win, they gave it a good shift in the end. And yeah, Ben's question, is that the bubble now? Is this just 1 result of Ghent had a good week, or is this the start of something? Looking at some of Westerlo's underlying numbers, which we did in a bit more detail last week, some of those players still had a pretty decent game, but only after the game had gone from them, which is kind of interesting. But they'll take this one on the chin. Timmy Simon's philosophical, and I think move on from it.
Yeah, I think so as well. Westerlo didn't play that bad as the scoreline suggests. Just that except in those 6 minutes, especially the second goal, gifting that one really while trying to play out. It was quite a bad one, but in the end, it's only 1 loss, of course. So not that much to add from that from that side, and actually from Gent's side either, I suppose. And like Ben already mentioned, Janderman in 4 games against Westerlo, 6 goals and 1 assist. Yeah, I think he wants to play against them more often. For sure. Noteworthy, of course, also that a lot of rotation in the Gent squad. This time it worked out, sometimes it doesn't. And this time they indeed were efficient, while in other games that had been the case. One important loss, I guess, as well, of course, in Hong going to Trabzonspor, who have indeed signed the whole Belgian league, or tried to sign the whole Belgian league, as Ben was hinting at in our preview episodes, to really come back to that one. But yeah. And too bad, I guess, one of the few creative players that they still had leaving them. So I do feel like they really need some more creativity one way or another, whether that's a direct replacement or in a different position. But yeah, they definitely could use some upgrade on that. Good win for them now, of course. A needed win as well. Could have been a completely different week.
They've got Partizan Belgrade, who have been pretty rubbish in the European kind of matches so far. They got absolutely battered by Dinamo Kiev, and then they lost over 2 legs to Swiss side Lugano. But it's going to be that classic thing that everyone says, it's a tough place to go to, isn't it? Because everyone just thinks it's going to be rabid fan bases. But apparently, according to some of the way the other teams have played there, it doesn't look that difficult to go to. But for Ghent, I think I'm more judging on how they played against Silkeborg and even against the Vikinger from the Faroe Islands. You feel like they're not going to make it easy, are they? But first leg away, second leg next Wednesday at home. Maybe they can get some fans in for the home game. That might be quite nice, because no one bothered turning up last week for that one. So yeah, we shall see. Before we leave, the Challenger started. If you haven't caught up with that, we did do a pre-season preview. Scott and Joris somehow managed to get it all in and get it all done. I don't know how they managed to do it, but we got there in the end. So if you haven't listened to that, do go ahead and listen to that as well. Okay, all you need to know about all the sides competing in the CPL. Scott, as our resident CPL super fan, which I think I'm going to start calling you from now on, let's kind of tell the people what happened in the first week of what is notoriously a most ridiculous league in Belgian and European football.
What a segue that was. And if you haven't listened to the CPL preview, please go and do that, because Joris gets the best introduction to any episode ever. I'm still enjoying that one. Yeah, results this weekend on Matchday 1. Denza romped a 4-1 win, the return of Hernan Losada. And Losada ball, I think, is back to some extent. Really strong offensive performance from them. Young Genk beat Sarang 2-0. Lokeren had a rude awakening on the return to professional football, thumped 4-0, could have been more, by Club Next at the Nest in Roeselare. Molenbeek and Patro Eisden finished 1 apiece. Beveren are off to a winning start. They beat Lommel 2-1. Frank Marand lost 1-0 to Raal. RFC Liège lost convincingly 3-0 to Eupen, and Zulte Waregem lost at home 1-0 to Liège in a game which I'm sure the Liège fans enjoyed, considering it was against their recently departed manager who left them to go to Zulte, and Sven van den Broek. So yeah, comfortable win for Denza. A real warning shot for Lokeren that they need to step it up. I saw that game this weekend, and I have to say they were well off it. So there's going to be some interesting conversations in training in their camp this week. Important for Beveren to get a positive start, because there was an air of uncertainty around things, I think, in the fan base there. So they will have enjoyed that against Lommel, who probably are one of the early favourites for promotion, as we kind of highlighted in the pre-season preview. Raal doing what Lokeren couldn't, but still be pleased with that. Great start for Eupen Eupen as well. Joris had a hot take on them in the preview. Go and listen to that. Some of their big hitters really producing the goods in the opening weekend. Goals from Amond, Isaac Nuhu and Reagan Charles Cook as well. If they can maintain that, then Joris might be right. And as I was saying, Zilta losing and Lierse fans enjoying that greatly because of the circumstances of the managerial change there. Jelle Vossen coming out afterwards saying, look, we really need reinforcements, which perhaps underlines what me and Joris were talking about on that preview again. Yet another punt, everybody. See what I'm doing there? Saying that, if Jelle Vossen, can handle the pressure of being the main man there, which is a big ask, really, even for him, who's a proven goal scorer, then they might do all right. But that's him saying, I think, subtextually, look, give me a hand here, guys. But they have brought in somebody today, actually. There's a newcomer come in today.
Yeah, definitely some things happening there. That game, Lierse fans indeed enjoying with the Euro bills, with the face of Van den Broek there. Not only the fans, actually, even their goalkeeper coach has been posting on social media with that. So yeah, it definitely did not sting. They had forgotten about it already. Yeah, clearly, but that must have tasted really sweet for them. On Lommel, some annoying. I'm already wanting to retract my statement that they will maybe get that promotion this season because they had some injury issues as well. So that part they can't really do much about. But yeah, some signs that one of the main things I did highlight, of course, as well is if Wangsa is staying, then they really have a good shout. Otherwise, they might have some issues. Well, he didn't feature in this game alongside the goalkeeper, De Busser, and one other player that I'm now not sure about which it was, but where they are expected to leave coming from the City football groups, and so they're just also not featuring in the games, just to be sure that they don't pick up anything, I guess. And additionally, of course, it didn't help specifically in this game, at least. I'm not sure if he's rumored to be transferred as well. That Karim Derman, also was not not there because he was sick at the game day, game day. Early indications that there are some higher powers still at Lommel, which are not completely aligned with what they definitely will want inside the club, making it more complicated. But maybe, of course, the transfer window shuts down in a few weeks. Maybe after that, things cool down a little bit, but not a great start nonetheless.
Yeah, I'm sure they can just move some people around the City group, can't they? And they'll end up with another bunch of players for the next season from somewhere else. Which always seems to happen. But yeah, it's interesting. Like, it must be quite frustrating it sounded like it was not just the players that were frustrated that these guys weren't involved, but it was also the manager was frustrated that they weren't involved because of that as well. And it's like, well, you kind of know what you're signing up for if you're joining a team in the City group. Like, there's lots of things that are going to happen outside of your control. So it's kind of, it's what you get, I guess. Because obviously I wasn't involved in the preview, but yeah, I was quite surprised that Eupen got Selim Begovic as a head coach. I think a couple of years ago he did a really, really decent job at Jan Regensburg, and it hasn't been as good for him since. But that kind of time at Jan, he did like a really good head coach to be able to do with like nothing, not much resources and stuff like that. So I'm really interested to see how he does get on with Eupen. And Nuhu scoring a goal. Maybe he's found a level that he can kind of kick on at, but we shall see. But obviously that's now back up and running, so we will be doing a section on the Challenger every single week, and we'll welcome any questions on the Challenger now as well. Unfortunately, we don't have time to do the listener questions that we did get today, but we will definitely get around to them and sort out maybe our time management. But there's just been so much to talk about in this episode that sometimes these things happen, so apologies for that. Guys, as always, it's been a pleasure chatting all things Belgian football with you.
It has, and good luck to those three Belgian sides in European action this week, Anderlecht, Cercle and Ghent. Please win, and let's have something to celebrate next week. We don't want one side to fall at the hurdle, which we've seen over the last couple of years. Full house, please.
Yes, please. And also, Ben, you heard it before. You have to up your introductions of me specifically, apparently.
I'll have a chat with Scott offline and see if we can come up with something.
I'm curious what it will be next week. Yep. Or yeah.
Is this like the Yaya Toure birthday cake thing, where if we don't do it right, you're going to be complaining to the press that we don't treat you properly and we're really disrespectful?
Cannot confirm nor deny that statement at the moment. It's all hypothetical anyway.
Well, if you want to make yours happy and keep him here, leave us a review on your podcast app of choice. Leave a good review as well. That'll make you even happier. And if you've been supporting us for a while and you want to go one step further, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com. All links are on our socials as well. But yeah, that about does it for this week's episode of the Belgian Football Podcast. We'll speak to you next week.